Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join us in the beautiful landscape of Scotland. And just take a look at this landscape that's all around us, it's incredible. Today's adventure, we've come up the Glen Shee Road from Blairgowrie and we've noticed this old abandoned croft. So we've come over to document it and see what remains of an ancient piece of history here. It looks like there's an old remains of a cottage and some other wall lines and stuff. So yeah, let's get into action and see what history remains. There could be lime kilns or anything on the go here, folks. So yeah, let's get into action. So we do love an abandoned bit of history on the channel, folks, and we also enjoy visiting a place that we've never been before. And it's so cool exploring things that you've never seen, locations that you've never been. It's just like little historical nuggets hidden all over the place in Scotland. Today's adventure's no different. The character of these old stone buildings on the hill, they've stood here for hundreds of years. Potentially first built in the 1500's in ancient times like that. And this is quite a busy road at the side here. That's the main Glen Shee Road. It takes you up to Braemar, past the Glen Shee ski centre and such like places. They won't have had a good year this year because there's hardly any snow up on these hilltops. Yeah, look at this, we're on the outer boundary wall line of this place. Yeah, there's been a building or remains of a structure even way out here, and we're not even within the main wall. Originally, these farmers, when they first constructed these places, they were often the first people to build out in these wild lands. So they would drain it, they would dig proper ditches and stuff, and then level the land and clear it of big stones and things like that. And that's how they had an area like this. Often they had a few fields and a few boundary lines. And just look at that wee window and stuff up there. This is so cool. I love the wee details of the history like this. Sometimes in the storms, things like this can fall down and the historical detail goes missing. You can see here, if these stones fall out, they look super fragile. That whole thing will just fall off. Wow, what a scene of history on today's video, folks. I just love it. Yeah, this is leaning over so much. It's cool to come and document it today before it is gone forever. There's some wooden fences and stuff inside it, and it's maybe been used for the shepherds and the farmer around here, because it's most commonly still owned by like a local farmer. Yeah, look, the fireplace or the chimney's been at this end, because I think that's how it looks, potentially, and maybe no either. It is interesting, look, you get the big quartz chunks and stuff within the structures in Scotland. Wow. So I'm not actually seeing a chimney there now that I'm looking closer. Sometimes it's hard to actually see the layers of the history. But if there's a chimney, it obviously shows that it was occupied by humans as like a house or a building. Sometimes I've even seen some farm sheds have got fireplaces and that in them. Back in the day, the coal fire or the sticks getting burnt in the fire was the way that they dried the places and got the heat in. And see an interesting detail in the original structure here. I think it's been a lot deeper, and over the years the ground level's built up with the vegetation in the soil. But then I could be wrong. I was thinking it looked like there had been beams or whatever in here. But this is maybe where the farmer actually came into the shed and he laid his lantern in here so he could see what he was doing. It would have been like a paraffin lamp or like an old lantern of some sort back in the day that you would have put the fuel in it, and that would have been your source of light. Especially way out here, it's just the winters is like dark early. In the afternoons in the winter it gets dark about like 3:30 probably at the darkest time of year, but nowadays it's actually getting lighter again for the summer conditions. But you can imagine before you had electricity there was so much of the day spent in darkness. That could be why they had this sort of thing in the wall. Seeing that wee window up there is so cool. And just think how the land around this place has changed over the years since it was built. I'm thinking it was built back in the day, like I've said already, 1700s even. Often it would have had limestone mortar in there, but because of the wild weather out on the hill and the frosty, snowy conditions in the winter, the limestone mortar actually washes out and disappears. And then that's how the walls fall down eventually. And that's how the dry stone constructions around the outside can look so different to the internal walls. And you can see it here. The internal wall's still in great condition compared to some of the other walls. Check out the big stones and the little stones. Wow, what a scene with this backdrop behind it. It's a Scottish paradise out here. And I'll head round there. Highlander's a way to throw his drone up there and get some shots. You can check him out on YouTube as well. He flies his drone and gets some different aspects or angles of the places we go. At Highlander87 on YouTube. Yeah, look, this whole bit, there's been areas here that's been levelled, and there's been other buildings out on this bit of land as well. Sometimes with a little farm croft, there would have been so much related to it. There's been 3 buildings here, and then more over at that side, or even wall lines. Some of them would have been sheds, other ones might have been little fields. This whole area has been built up though, and that's incredible to see. All this is ancient, forgotten wall lines on the land. And over the years, we have documented quite a few of these historical locations, which are like old crofts and forgotten markings even on the land, because this is all that's left now. If you can imagine so many hundreds of years, some of this would be from the original farm construction, and then that area there would have been maintained and upkept, and this must have been abandoned. And as the years go past, the moss and the grass just grows up over it and covers it. Before you know it, stuff like this is just gone and forgotten. Even at this side, you can see the outline of the buildings, and then there's been like a wee door or an entrance here. And then over this side, we'll have to go and have a look, because I believe there could be even a lime kiln or potential for more history down there. Anyway, let's take a walk up through this site right here. Wow, this has been quite a big building, and then there's been other buildings right there. This is incredible. Let's head on over. Each of these may have been also things related to the farm originally. So this area to my left here has actually been a row of buildings, and you can see the outline of the squares, the markings on the land. And it is just, I'm blown away by how much I'm actually seeing. The outer perimeter walls of little fields, and then these little sectioned off parts all around. And sometimes it's not until the winter or this time of year that you really get a real true aspect of the land and what was done by the ancient farmers. Wow, yeah, this is the edge of the original croft right here, and you can actually see where it's been levelled for a little field. And in the distance I can see the incredible mountains of Glen Shee. And yeah, I'll probably fly my drone about. Once I go back to the car, I'll get it out, so stay tuned for the drone shots at the end of this video as well. It's pretty cool often to see these places from the sky and get a different aspect or an angle of them. And see this down here, this is what I was thinking may be an old lime kiln, because it is an interesting shape. And it is a similar shape to some of the older lime kilns we've visited. And it does look like it's built. Yeah, that's what it is, folks. This is the final piece of the farm croft puzzle. This here would have been the old lime kiln, I believe. But then it could just be coincidence it's this shape, because from here it looks quite earthy, whereas a kiln would normally be built with a solid stone. On the top it looked more like it was of solid stone construction. Yeah, it's an interesting bit for sure. The whole shape of the land, you can see the shape of it, like that ridge coming down there. Other little parts coming in, maybe old roads, old boundary lines. And then there's all these dry stone dikes just leading all over the land. But it's so cool coming out into these places in Scotland and documenting things that we've never seen. It just blows me away. There's so much out here to see. And historical wonders from all different time periods in history. At this point you can see the old road coming down into the farm complex, and then there's been this little area here, and then the road's continued down this side, and then there's been another row of buildings in line here. So it's been a fair size of a place in its day. An old farm croft with a cottage or whatever. One of these buildings would have been the residence of the original croft owners, but years later they may have just used this for animals, maybe sheep and that. And that's when this would have been upkept and maintained. You can see the difference of construction here as well, with the main wall that would have had the limestone mortar compared to the dry stone wall at this side that would have been their boundary line of the field. It's an interesting difference there in the masonry, and that's the kind of details we love to document, because you can see here it's just properly wait to fall over anytime. The wrong storm or the wrong conditions, maybe if a sheep even brushes against it, the whole wall just tumble. The details of history gone forever. Check it out, folks, this is the back wall, the boundary line of this little settlement. Probably a little family or whatever spent many years living in a place like that, and then one day it's just abandoned and forgotten, and then history just gets lost to nature and time out in these places. In the winter and even in the summer in Scotland you get some mad storms and it degrades abandoned places really fast. Also it's quite a damp climate, so all wooden parts normally rot away, and then you're just left with the stone structures. Even then the old limestone mortar gets washed out and the walls eventually tumble. The story, the history just gets lost, like I've said already on this video. It's just breathtaking. When I look around here, the landscape's just so special. I think Mount Blair's actually over that side, and I can see a big phone mast on the top of it. That's a way, like, you can tell if it's Mount Blair you're looking at because of that mast. A few weeks ago there was snow on top of all these mountains and hills, but it seems to mostly be melted apart from the far hills of Glen Shee. There's a couple of little blocks of snow up there. I think my favourite features of this place is the wee window, and then imagining the boy putting the lamp into the hole in the wall, whatever the farmer or the family was doing here. And look at some of the stones with the quartz seams. A lot of the time these places were built with stones like locally sourced from the area. They would just go out on the hill, bring in some stones and just start building. Probably over like generations they were always constructing and building, maintaining what they had, and then they would have had their livestock and their animals and their wee bit of ground here, their wee bit of hill and glen. And that's the sort of thing we love to document on the channel. See, the interesting thing with this site, folks, there's actually old wall lines and boundary lines, and you can actually see it's built at a different time to the newer wall lines over the top. And it's crazy to see that different layers of history. Ancient crofts get covered over by more modern ones. So that's another piece of Scottish history documented, and it's set within this incredible hillscape of Glen Shee. And the landscape around here is just breathtaking. Scottish mountains and hills, and the amount of nature and animals and stuff you see when you're driving about in these places, it's so cool. And it's one of my favourite roads. It takes you from Blairgowrie to Braemar. And today it's been fun to see this piece of abandoned history at the side of it and document another thing that we've never looked at before on the channel, and tell the story of a wee settlement. And it shows how big it's been with the amount of groundworks around it.
Settlement is bigger than you think.
Yeah, so it's cool once again, folks. Anyway, I'm ending it here. Stay tuned at the end of the video for the drone footage, because I'm waiting to hear we fly about with the drone and see this place from the air. But yeah, we'll catch you soon for the next one. Goodbye from me. Goodbye from Highlander 87. We'll see you soon.